Organic chemistry. See, it's a chapter in which we'll be studying about organic compounds. We know that organic compounds are the compounds which are obtained from living beings or from the fossil fuels. But we need to understand exactly that what about their structures, their behavior, and what makes them different from the inorganic and other compounds which are obtained from minerals. See, if we see from ourselves to the things around us, what we find is that these compounds are very, very important for us. If we see our own body, from very small molecules like DNA to proteins to carbohydrates and to the fabrics which we are wearing and the dyes and the food stuff whatever we eat, all are actually the organic compounds. We also realize that for getting cure from the diseases, we have developed a number of medicines and compounds which again are basically organic in nature. The science of organic chemistry is not very old. It's about 200 years back that the scientists were able to make difference between organic compounds which are obtained from living beings, or from plants and animals, and from between the inorganic compounds which are obtained from minerals. We know that Berzelius, who gave the vital force theory, the Swedish chemist, who basically was the first one who started this process. But it was actually in around 1828, the Wöhler, who was the first one who synthesized urea molecule from ammonium cyanate. So he was the first one to obtain urea, the first organic compound synthesized in the lab from ammonium cyanate. After that, we know that there has been a lot of major discoveries and inventions, and a lot of people have been involved into this. Like we know that the Berthollet, Berthollet and other people who first synthesized methane. Then we know that Kolb's who synthesized, actually methane was the first synthesized by Kolb's by its electrolysis process. Then Berthollet and other people, they devoted so much into this field that we have been now able to synthesize millions and millions of these organic compounds. Now we know their structures, their behaviors and other type of things. And this is what we have to learn in this chapter. Then let us start this journey into the organic compounds by first dealing with the shapes of carbon compounds. You need to know that the carbon in these organic compounds can be of three types. It can be sp3 hybridized, like what we get in this case of compounds called alkanes. It can be, in case of alkenes, is sp2 hybridized. These are alkanes which are having on all single bond. Alkenes contains at least one double bond, so carbons are having sp2 hybridization. Or they can be in alkynes, where what we find is that they are sp hybridized. Now we know that more is the S character, shorter is the bond length. That is why what we find is the CC, this CC triple bond is about 1.20 angstroms unit, whereas this sp2, which is having a higher S character, is about 1.34 angstroms unit, and in this case of alkanes, the CC bond is about 1.54 angstroms unit. This is I'm talking about the CC bond length. Similarly, the CH bond length also becomes shorter as the S character of the hybridization of the carbon increases. Also, you need to know that electronegativity also, the carbon also gets increased with the percentage of S character, and that is why the most electronegative is this carbon in case of alkynes, then followed by the alkenes, and the least is your alkane, and that makes the CH bond in case of alkynes most polar, most acidic. And that is why the H plus and out of these three will be most readily will be given out by alkynes. So these are their basic structures, and I think we all are knowing whenever a carbon or any atom is sp3 hybridized, it is tetrahedral. When it is sp2, it will be a trigonal planar, and when it is sp8, it will be linear. Now let us see some characteristic features of the pi bond. See, pi bond in organic compounds gives them a lot of variety. We know that the moment this carbon gets sideway overlapped by the overlapping of the p orbitals, it leads to the formation of a double bond, and this is how we get what alkenes. Hybridization also of the carbon also gets changed and becomes sp2. And the moment this overlapping is more than this one, what we have in the case of alkynes, we have 2 pi bonds. This carbon's hybridization becomes sp and it becomes linear with an angle of 180 degree. So these pi bonds create a lot of variety in these compounds, because on these pi bonds what we can do is, due to the high charge density, electron density, the addition takes place very, very easily, and that is why these compounds are so these compounds can show additional reaction, and therefore they are called alkenes and alkynes as unsaturated hydrocarbons or unsaturated compounds, because on these sites of these double and triple bonds we can do a lot of addition reactions, or we can add the species around on these sites of double and triple bond. Now let us see their complete condensed bond line and structural formulas of the organic compounds. See, we know that, like, let's take an example of an alkane. We know that its formula is CnH2n plus 2, and if we are having, suppose, C4, it will be H10. Now this C4H10 is called its molecular formula. How can we show that in this compound there will be 4 carbons attached to one another in the form of a chain, and they will be having hydrogens accordingly to satisfy its tetravalency? We can have to draw the structure like this. Now it's a chain of a 4 carbon. This carbon has to form a 4 bond, because we know that carbon has to form a bond in order to have tetravalency. So it will be having what, 3 hydrogens like this. This carbon will be having 2 hydrogens like this. Even this will be having 2 hydrogens like this, and this will be having 3 hydrogens like this. Now this type of structure, when it is written, is called what? This is called expanded formula. Expanded formula. And this is how we describes or explains the structure of this butane. It will be in expanded form, it will be looking like this. Now we can condense these carbons along with its hydrogen, and we can write down as this as CH3 and CH2, CH2 and CH3. So this compounds, this type of formula when written is called condensed formula. This is called condensed formula. Now since these carbons are sp3 hybridized, you need to know that they definitely, what will happen is the carbon chain will be zigzag chain. It will be somehow, it will be like this. It will be zigzag chain. Now what we do is, in place of spending so much of time in writing down CH3, CH2, CH2, CH2 like this, what we do is we draw these as in the form of a lines. Now this type of formula is called bond line formula. It's called bond line formula. Now in this, in each lines, every end of each line which we draw is having a carbon, is representing a carbon. So this is having a carbon, this is having a carbon, this is having carbon, this is having carbon, this is having carbon. So since this is having 5 carbons, it will be called pentane. And this type of structure is called what? The bond line formula. And now let us move to the most important one, the exact structure formula. None of these was like structural formula, remember. Like, let us take example of CH4. If we want to show exact what exactly the structure of this methane is, we know that it is sp3 hybridized. So it will be what? Tetrahedral in shape. Now we cannot show this 3-dimensional tetrahedral structure by drawing just these 4 lines on this board with a simple line, or by just simple representations, and we can tell that this is tetrahedral 3-dimensional molecule. What we do is we use a certain special techniques, special type of formula, which are like, we use this wedge and dash formula. In this, what we do is we draw 2 bonds with the same simple line, one with the thick line, another one with the dashed line. Now what does it mean is, it means this is representing a 3-dimensional structure of the methane molecule. In these, the bonds which are drawn with the normal line are on the plane of this board. The bond which is drawn with this wedge-shaped line is towards you, and one which is drawn with this dashed line is on the other side of the board. So this is how we represent the 3-dimensional structure of the organic compounds. Now let us see the classification of organic compounds. Organic compounds broadly can be classified into 2 major categories. One are called open chain or acyclic, another one are closed chain or cyclic. Let me give an example, like if we say we are having this compound, so it is butane. Whereas if I write the same 4-carbon chain compound like this in the form of its bond line notation, it will be called cyclobutane. So this is closed chain cyclic, this is open chain. This is how we can easily distinguish these compounds. Now let us move further into the this classification. Open chain, yes, can be of alkane, alkene, alkyne. They can be hydrocarbons, they can be derivative of hydrocarbons. But closed chain then again are of two types, homocyclic and heterocyclic. Homocyclic means in this the chain which is forming this cycle will be having carbon atoms. It will be only of carbon. Now this homocyclic, or which are also called carbocyclic or alicyclic ones, they basically are of two types, alicyclic or aromatic. When we say them alicyclic, that means aromatic means, first you need to understand, they are having what? They burns with sooty flame, these compounds, they have special aroma. They are, what you can relate is that they are benzene-like. So they have alternate single and double bond, follows Huckel's rule. So all these properties which you will be doing later on. But now what you can at this stage recall is that you can relate is that these are the compounds which are of like benzene. So homocyclic can be like benzene, which are like this. We know that like we have benzene is, it's like this one, and they can be without these double or alternate double bonds like this one, which is called cyclohexane. So this comes in category of alicyclic. Cyclohexane, cyclobutane, cyclopropane. This will be cyclobutane, this will be cyclopropane. So like this. So these are called alicyclic ones. Whereas, now let's move to the aromatic ones. Aromatic ones, like the properties which I told you, they can be benzenoid and non-benzenoid. Benzenoid will be like benzene. Like I can give you certain examples of these compounds. Let me give you. Like we have, of course, benzene. We can have two benzene rings fused together. This is called naphthalene. We can have 3 rings fused like this. This is called anthracene, phenanthrene. All are the examples of benzenoid type. Non-benzenoid will be, of course, aromatic, but remember, they will be not like benzene. Like, let me give you an example of this one. This is called azulene. Like we can have tropolon. So these are called non-benzenoid type, which are not like benzene. Then let us move to heterocyclic one. Heterocyclic can again be your, can be classified, these heterocyclic ones, as alicyclic and aromatic. Now alicyclic, heterocyclic ones will be your like this. This is called THF, called tetrahydrofuran. So you can see that they are not having any double bonds. Whereas if they are like this, we call it furan, it is like benzene, it's aromatic in nature. Now what you can make out in these compounds is that the cycle, the chain is not having only the carbon, oxygen is also a part of this chain. That's why they are called heterocyclic. Now if they are aromatic, like they are this one, if they are non-aromatic, they are alicyclic, they can be of this one. We can have other examples of aromatic ones, like we can have sulfur in place of oxygen, it's called thiophene. We can have nitrogen in place of this one, like this. You can have pyrrole. We can have nitrogen with a 6-membered, it becomes a part of the 6-membered ring, it's called pyridine, etc. So all these are the aromatic type of organic compounds.